The air in northern Vermont, even in early October, carried a crisp bite, a scent of pine and impending frost. It was the kind of evening that demanded warmth, a fire crackling, a hearty meal on the table, the familiar comfort of family around you. On the evening of October 5th, 1997, that was precisely the scene unfolding inside the remote cabin of the Jenkins family. Arthur Jenkins, a quiet man who worked remotely as a software engineer, was likely seated at the head of the polished pine table. Across from him, his wife Eleanor, a schoolteacher, might have been recounting the day's small triumphs and frustrations. And between them, their two children, 8-year-old Lily and 12-year-old Thomas, were probably chattering, perhaps about homework or the upcoming fall festival. Dinner was a simple affair: roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. The kind of meal that felt like a cornerstone of their ordinary, unremarkable lives. Outside, the last vestiges of twilight were fading, giving way to the deep, silent blanket of a Vermont night. Inside, the cabin glowed with the soft light of a single overhead lamp, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. It was a tableau of domestic peace, a moment frozen in time. But that moment, that evening, would be the last time anyone could account for the Jenkins family. Because the next morning, that scene, that ordinary, comforting dinner, would be found utterly undisturbed, save for one chilling detail: the family themselves were gone. It was Agnes Thorne, Eleanor's sister, who first felt the prickle of unease. Eleanor hadn't called back about their plans for the weekend. A small thing, perhaps, but Eleanor was meticulous, especially about communication. By late Saturday morning, the prickle had sharpened into a definite worry. Eleanor never missed a call, never left things hanging. Agnes decided to drive out to the cabin, a journey that took her deeper into the quiet, winding roads bordering the vast, dark forests of the state park. As she pulled her aging sedan up the gravel driveway, she noticed Arthur's pickup truck was still parked in its usual spot, slightly askew, a detail that felt off. He rarely left it like that. The cabin itself was quiet, too quiet. No laughter, no television drone, not even the distant hum of a washing machine. A knot tightened in Agnes's stomach. She walked to the front door, pushing it gently. It wasn't locked. It swung inward with a faint, almost imperceptible creak. The air inside was still, cool, and carried a faint, stale scent of something cooked, something left out. And then she saw it. The dining table, still set. 4 plates, still laden with the remnants of chicken, potatoes, and beans. The cutlery lay beside them, some partially used. A half-full glass of milk stood next to Lily's plate, a small dark ring forming where condensation had run down the side. A napkin lay crumpled beside Arthur's plate, as if he had just risen from the table for a moment. But the chairs were empty, all 4 of them. The plates were still warm, the food untouched. It was as if a silent, invisible hand had simply lifted them, mid-sentence, mid-bite, from their ordinary dinner and spirited them away. Agnes called out, her voice a fragile whisper against the heavy silence. "Eleanor, Arthur, Lily, Thomas." Only the echo answered, swallowed by the still air of the cabin. She checked the bedrooms, beds neatly made, clothes in drawers. The bathroom, toothbrush still in the holder, a half-used tube of toothpaste. The kitchen, pots and pans from dinner still on the stove, waiting to be cleaned. Nothing seemed out of place, nothing disturbed. Yet everything was wrong. Her mind, trying to grasp for a logical explanation, offered only absurdities. A prank, a sudden urgent trip. But the dinner, the open door, the lingering warmth of the food. It defied any rational explanation. Agnes stumbled back out of the cabin, the cold mountain air suddenly feeling like a suffocating weight. She knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that something profoundly, terrifyingly wrong had happened here. She found her phone, her fingers fumbling, and called the local sheriff's department. The arrival of Sheriff Brody and his deputies was met with the same unsettling stillness. They moved through the cabin with a quiet methodicalness, their flashlights cutting through the deepening shadows of the late afternoon. Every detail Agnes had observed was confirmed. The untouched dinner, the open door, the absence of any sign of struggle or forced entry. It was an anomaly that defied every standard investigative procedure. There was no forced entry, no struggle, no indication of anything amiss, save for the utter absence. Outside, a perimeter was established. Dogs were brought in, their keen noses tracing phantom scents across the property into the dense tree line. And then, nothing. The scent simply vanished at the edge of the woods, as if the family had stepped into an entirely different dimension. Search parties, a mix of local volunteers and state police, fanned out across the vast, unforgiving landscape. They scoured the hiking trails, the old logging roads, the banks of the nearby river. For days, then weeks, the forests echoed with the calls of their names, their pleas swallowed by the rustling leaves and the indifferent wind. But no trace of the Jenkins family was ever found. No discarded shoe, no forgotten toy, no sign of passage. Investigators dug deeper into the family's lives. Arthur and Eleanor were described as private but well-respected members of their small community. No known enemies, no significant debts, no history of mental illness or marital discord. Their lives were meticulously ordinary, almost painfully so. There was no hidden past, no secret life waiting to be uncovered. The children, Lily and Thomas, were happy, well-adjusted kids. Their school friends spoke of seeing them just days before, full of plans for Halloween. One particularly baffling detail was found in Arthur's study. His laptop sat open on his desk, displaying a half-typed email to a colleague left mid-sentence. His wallet, containing cash and credit cards, was on the desk beside it. Eleanor's purse, with her own wallet and phone, was hanging on a hook near the kitchen. All their vehicles, Arthur's truck, Eleanor's older SUV, were still in the driveway. It was as if they had simply stepped away from their lives, leaving everything behind, but without any apparent intention to do so. Even more unsettling was the family dog, a golden retriever named Rusty, found whimpering in the backyard, tied to his run. He was fed and watered, but his eyes held a confusion, a sadness that seemed to mirror the investigators' own. He had been left behind, and he hadn't made a sound. As the weeks turned into months, and then years, the official theories became a grim recitation of the impossible. Abduction, but without forced entry, without a struggle, and with no ransom demand ever made. Voluntary disappearance, but why leave everything, their identities, their money, their children's lives, and vanish into thin air, mid-dinner? A sudden, inexplicable natural phenomenon? The thought was quickly dismissed, though it lingered in the back of some minds like a persistent chill. Some whispered of a wilderness accident, a sudden desperate flight into the woods. But how could 4 people, including 2 children, vanish so completely, leaving no trail, no cry for help, no physical evidence? Others spoke of more sinister possibilities: a cult, a shadowy organization, a secret government project in the vast, unmonitored reaches of the state park. But again, no evidence, no leads, only speculation born of desperation. The Jenkins case remains officially unsolved, a cold case that continues to haunt the quiet corners of Vermont. The cabin, eventually sold, stands empty now and then, a silent monument to what was lost. The dinner table, once a symbol of family and warmth, became a chilling tableau of absence. The food, a symbol of life, became a petrified testament to an interruption so profound, so absolute, that it defied all understanding. What happened to the Jenkins family on that crisp October evening? Did they walk away? Were they taken? Did they simply cease to be? No one knows, and perhaps no one ever will. It was as if The very air had simply swallowed them whole, and the silence they left behind, it has never truly lifted.